Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Beruchim Aba'im to everybody. Today, Friday, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Perashat Bechukotai, Makam Nahwan, Shabbat Mevarchim, Chodesh Sivan, Hava Aleinu Letova, the 41st day of the Omer, the 27th of May, the 26th of Iyar. Today's special breakfast and class, graciously sponsored Le'ilui Nishmat, Mrs. Pauline Rose Bat Sarina, Mrs. Pauline Braca Alea Shalom. For the Kahal Kadosh that may remember her, she is the beloved, or was the beloved wife of our founder, Mr. David Braca Alea Shalom, and beloved mother of our chairman of the board, Mr. Ivor Braca. So, Ba'ezat Hashem, will Mrs. Pauline Rose Bat Sarina, Mrs. Pauline Braca Alea Shalom. For the Kahal Kadosh that may remember her, she is the beloved, or was the beloved wife of our founder, Mr. David Braca Alea Shalom, and beloved mother of our chairman of the board, Mr. Ivor Braca. So, Ba'ezat Hashem, will Yes, excellent. Additionally, today's class is dedicated to Le'ilui Nishmat Esther Bat Alo Alea Hashalom. So we begin right away with a couple of messages in honor of the 41st day of the counting of the Omer. And this is a very interesting day in the Sefirah of the Omer, and we'll explain the reason why in a moment. This week, as we know, the host of the Omer is Yosef HaSaddik, that represents the midah of Yesod. Yesod, we explained throughout the week that it means the foundation of holiness and godliness in our life. Today, the special guest of honor is Yosef HaSaddik. So in plain English, today's message of the class is Yosef HaSaddik is welcoming himself. Now, so what does that mean? Every week of the Omer, we have a day that the host of the week welcomes himself. If there are 7 weeks of the Omer and 7 Sefirot, it is a given that they will be connected. And it says as follows. Here he brings a very powerful message, and I will speak about it because I believe that in the audience, physical or virtual, we have customers for the message of today. I will have to speak about a topic that perhaps is not commonly spoken publicly, but is the topic of the Misva between husband and wife. I don't have to go into details. I believe that we are all mature and old enough to circumvent that explanation part of the class. But it says here a very fascinating concept. And it says that Yosef HaSaddik teaches us how to conceive a child. Now, I ask you a question. Everybody knows how to conceive a child. But the answer is that that knowledge is limited to physicality. Now we're going to cross that bridge and we're going to go behind the scenes of what happens when the Misva between husband and wife is being fulfilled. And we're not going to discuss the frequency. According to the Kabbalistic writings, the night of the mikveh is a very holy night in the relationship between husband and wife. According to the holy books, Leil Shabbat, the night of Shabbat, it's also a very holy night in the relationship between husband and wife. But we're not going to go to that topic. It's not the topic of the day. But the topic of the day is, how can a person merit to have good children? Now, you may say, Rabbi, every child is good. And we agreed on that. And we believe that. But sometimes throughout life, we may see some challenging situations. So the message of the day is, Bisha'ah, at the moment that the person sanctifies himself, Bisha'at ha-misva, in the moment that is fulfilling the misvah with his wife, all relevant to that particular topic. What does it mean? The Gemara in Masechet Nida says the following: Bene Tisha Midot. 9 problematic children born out of a physical relationship. What does it mean in plain English? I'm doing the talking and I'm trying to explain it in a way that is easy to digest. But simply speaking, the Gemara in Masechet Nida tells us that there are 9 thoughts in the brain of a person that has a direct influence on the conceiving of the child. If I can expand a bit more on this topic, the Zohar Kadosh writes about the Zera. Zera, right? The Zera of the men, the semen or the seed of the men. What triggers the coming out of the Zera? You may say the physical reaction of the body. We all agree on that. But you want to know the real Torah reason of what triggers that reaction? The brain, the mahashava. And that's why the Gemara writes, Bene Tisha Midot. 9 situations that is challenging for intimacy. I'll tell you 1 or 2. Bene Gerusha, Bene Temura, Bene Shikora. I gave you 3 out of 9. What does that mean? Bene Gerusha means if, unfortunately, the husband is thinking of divorcing his wife and they are together, that's a problem. Because I don't understand. You already called the Beit Din to set up an appointment. You already spoke to the attorney, the divorce attorney, to get divorced. And you're fulfilling the misvah with your wife. You want to take advantage one more time before you get divorced? God forbid. That's why the Gemara calls it Bene Kerusha. If your thought here, it's already divorcing her, keep your distance. Very thoughtful of the Gemara statement. Another one, Bene Shikora. Either one of them is under the influence of alcohol. Suddenly, the desire got activated and he's drunk or she's drunk, God forbid. Neither one of them should be drunk. We don't encourage drinking. We try to minimize it. The third case, Bene Temura. He is with her, but thinking about someone else. Has v'shalom, or bene anusa. She doesn't want, he wants. And then somehow he's violating her. God forbid. Anus. Honest. I'm sorry, this topic is a bit heavy for all of us. But guess what? It says the Sephirah of today that this sanctity of the Zera and the conceiving of a child which begins from intimacy once they catch with each other the egg and the sperm, says based on the thought that they had while fulfilling the Misva, that determines the level of sanctity of the child. It's heavy. It's heavy. But let's continue. And it says as follows. If you want to be more precise, the Zohar Kadosh writes that the Misvah should be done by Hasot, midnight. Yani today time is 1:20 a.m. Now, you may ask yourself, right, the kids are asleep, that's good. The kids need to be asleep, and they should not be in your room. But your question will be probably, why do you have to wait till 1:20 a.m. to do the Misvah? What is the Misvah, the Afikoman? What was the Afikoman? You have to eat at Hazon. So it says the Zohar Kadosh, and it says as follows, that the night is divided in two halves. The first half is the night time that follows Midat Hadin. From Hasot is Midat Harahamim, the attribute of mercy and compassion. Remember a while back we explained the Ashkenazi tradition on the first night of Serihot. When does the Ashkenazi tradition begin Serihot? Midnight. Why not 9 o'clock at night? It's more convenient to do it at 9 o'clock. No, because the first half of the night is Din, the second half of the night is Rahamim. Just to dissipate any halachic questions that may come up. I'm only delivering the technical message of the Zohar of today. From a halachic perspective, once the wife comes back from the mikveh, they can fulfill the Misvah. There is no need for you to sit down and learn till 1:20 before you do the Misvah. Because probably you're going to fall asleep and your wife is going to fall asleep. And we already learned in the Gemara that if she's sleeping, you cannot do the Misvah. Because when the person sleeps, don't really have much control of what's happening to the body. That's another one of the 9 cases that the Gemara mentions. You follow me? So why the Gemara needs to open the eyes to us? To teach us that even something so basic in human life, like the first mitzvah of the Torah. This is the first commandment of the Torah, Peru Urbu, Umil'u et ha'aretz. The obligation of procreation. That's why when you have all these political movements of abortions, etc., and changing genders, all these things that are happening out there, they go against the principle of the purpose of why Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world to begin with. Let's continue. A bit heavy, Rabotai. Next. The next one is easier. This was a bit heavy. You know?
Still eating breakfast, Rabbi.
Huh?
Still eating
It's
breakfast.
no, it's suitable. And that's why you have a special breakfast and class. Why it says a special breakfast and class here? Those who want to watch it remotely. What does it say? That's what you get when you sponsor the breakfast and class. Okay, what does it say special breakfast and class? Because the topic of today is not simple. It's not simple. And guess what? Some of us may say in our mind, Uli, I wish I knew this before I got married. Correct? Correct. But you know what? It doesn't matter. But there is a segment of our audience that is getting married soon. Obezat Hashem, later on, will get married. And guess what? Even if the person wasn't aware of any of the above, we're not pointing fingers, God forbid. We're creating an awareness that even something so essential in a life of a human being. And I have to say this because sometimes you hear cases that regretfully between husband and wife there is no relationship in a physical way. That's also a different show altogether. But it says here, the Sefirah, and it says, we touched on a topic which is the foundation of human life. Zachar unkeva. Borei Olam created the male, the female, Peru urbu. Be fruitful and multiply. So we're going to put this topic on hold. We're going to send the topic to the side. We're going to welcome another topic related to the same source of the foundation of holiness that we are learning today. There is a statement by our great Hachamim that says, Kadesh atzmecha bemutar lach. Sanctify yourself in whatever it's permissible for us to do. That's beautiful. Now, what is the message of this Talmudic statement? I believe that sometimes a person may believe in their mind, oh, if I want to live a holy way of life, I must separate myself from the physical world. Because since God is spiritual and we live a spiritual life, perhaps the less connected I am to the physical world, the more connected I'm going to be with God. I will tell you from the get-go that how holy this statement just sounded, our holy rabbis are not in favor of it. In other words, are you human or a Martian? You're a human. You're not an angel. You're a human. You're a human. If you're a human, you have needs. A physical needs to live. You have to get dressed. You have to eat. You have to drink. You have to work. And you have to bring children to the world. If that's God's decision. So you know what rabbis tell us? Do all of the above. Faddal. You want to eat? Awafi. You want to drink? Lechaim. But with kedusha. With holiness. Now what does it mean to eat with holiness? Or to drink with holiness? Besides kashrut, kashrut is not negotiable. We agree to say berachot before and after is not negotiable. The question is, how I'm eating. Do I eat like a mensch, like a ben adam, like Yaakov, or I eat like Esav? We discussed this a few weeks ago. Esav didn't believe in leftovers. If it's available, בכבוד. Yaakov נתן לי לחם לאכול ובגד ללבוש. I have what to eat, I'm happy. I have a shirt on my back, I'm clean, I'm happy. So it says here, interesting, even when the person goes to sleep, I'm not going to ask you, how do you sleep at night? Today, Nes Gadol, I woke up at 4:45. That Nes Gadol. Because I have wars every day. You know, the Yetzer Hara says, no, haram. You didn't sleep much. You're tired, right?
Yeah.
It sounds familiar? Okay? But we all agree that having a good night's sleep is very beneficial, very essential. You function different. You're more awake, you're more conscientious, you are calmer. Many times, the person becomes very cranky and upset rapidly. The Gemara writes there are a few reasons. One of them is not eating. Another one, not sleeping well at night. So imagine yourself that suddenly a person says, you know what? I'm going to be mahmir. I'm going to sleep 10 hours per night, which I believe that most of us can't afford to sleep 10 hours at night. If you sleep 10 hours at night, two things need to happen. Either you're going to sleep very early, or you wake up very late. And probably you're going to miss Oshima or Omer, or praying with a minyan in the morning, or praying with a minyan at night. So why do I bring this example? Because this is part of the message of the Sefirah. You want to eat? Chazak u'baruch. Eat properly. You want to sleep? Of course, go to sleep. But make sure to pray before and to get up early enough to pray. And different matters brings pleasure into life, whatever that means. And it says that the more the person invests in enhancing the holiness of the basic aspects of life, which I like to take a step back and discuss one more. We spoke about intimacy in the beginning. Then we spoke about eating, drinking, and sleeping. Let's talk about one more. Working. Working. Okay? Now the person may say, you know what? I need to work. We all need to work. So you know what? I'm going to work 12 hours a day. Although many of us do work 12 hours or more, I'm an exception. When you're in the rabbinate, you don't have business hours. And you can't afford a rainy day. Okay? So I'm going to take myself out of the equation. But let's say that a person that is in the world of business, it's nothing wrong to work hard to provide for the family. It's nothing wrong. But if that extra working compromises our integrity in the business aspect, it affects our spiritual life, but not having time to eat, to pray, to learn, to be at home with the family, it defeats the whole purpose of working 12 to 15 hours a week, even though it's justified. Not only that, if we want to be realistic with ourselves, if a person believes for a moment that by working more hours, we're going to make more money,
Not true.
it's not true. Chazaku Baruch. How many miracles you see in your world?
A lot, every day.
Daily.
Daily.
He tells me stories. Nothing happened all day. 5 minutes before closing, give me one of each.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And they pay full retail value.
Yes.
Can you imagine seeing these type of miracles every day? So it's a blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what it says here. And it says, don't think for a moment that the sprinkle of holiness into our natural, habitual things that we do every day. Even when you drive, let's talk about driving. There are people, hopefully not here, that when they drive, they believe that they are in the Formula One racetrack or Indy 500. And there are people, regretfully, that they develop road rage when they drive. How many times you hear? I was in Brooklyn the other day. Thank God that I didn't react. But there was a fellow behind me. Beep, 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 beep. Yani, there is a school bus in front of me. You're not allowed to circumvent the school bus. That's why they have the poles.
Stop.
Stop.
Yeah.
I was about to get out of the car and tell them, Rohi, take another street. But he was sandwiched in that I felt bad for whoever was sitting next to him in the car. And I saw it through the window, through the rear view mirror. I said, Ribono shel Olam, what happened to Sablanut? You see the boss is dropping off kids. You're going to, God forbid, circumvent a boss and God forbid, put in danger the life of children. Now, somebody listening to this may say, Rabbi, come on. According to what we are learning today, every step of our life has a room of godliness. This fellow that is blowing the horn maybe 10, 12 times. And thank God I had an out-of-state license plate. So he figured that I'm not a local driver, which is a different shi'ur altogether. Somebody screamed at me the other day, you drive like a Floridian. Because I stopped by the stop sign. I saw somebody about to cross, I said, cross. I mean, normal decency. So let's analyze the fellow blowing the horn. Lack of sablanut, number one. Number two, probably an angry person. Or easy to get angry with. If you have no patience, if we have no patience, you remember you go sometimes to Dave and Buster's, right? You go to the kids, right? And they have a game. They have a machine, right? And there are pop-ups. And you're going to take a plastic hammer and hit it. And the moment you hit one, another one pops up. Or sometimes you do this with dancing, right? You put your feet on the floor, on the special stage, and the music notes causes things to pop up. Pops up, you step. You step on one, you step another, you step another, you step another. There is another game which has to do with the body that Maybe you know the game. You put like a piece of like a vinyl on the floor, right? With different twister. Chazaku Baruch. Twister. Okay? So what happens that the moment that we have no patience, you know what pops up? Anger. You can't separate them. They are the antidote. You want to take care of anger management? Learn how to have more patience. More sablanut. It's not easy, by the way. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm only illustrating how from a road driving behavior, even on that, there is an element of godliness that we can activate or, God forbid, deactivate. Powerful message. I will tell you that. One more. It says, he quotes here a very fascinating Tomer Devora by the great Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, that he speaks about the mouth. There is a pasuk by Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet that says, Al titem picha lahati et besarecha. Don't allow the mouth to cause your body to sin. And this verse from Kohelet has many explanations. The easiest one is, be careful with kashrut. You eat kosher, you think kosher, you act hopefully in a kosher way. That's one pirush. Another pirush, nibul pe. We discussed this topic a few days ago, I believe. Nibul pe in English, it's a vulgarity or profanity. When a person brings forth words which are not clean and pure, it affects the body and the neshama of the person. Other matter, he says, that the more holiness we develop in our speech, the more holiness we develop in our life. And therefore it says, Ishtadel bekol koho. In English it means, put your utmost effort. Liot mekushar umhubar lasadikim amitiim. It says, try to develop a level of relationship and connections to the true, good, holy tzaddikim. Now, how do you know if someone is a tzaddik or not? I don't have that answer because I'm far away from being a tzaddik. I know you believe otherwise, but it is not true. So it says, you know how a person developed to become a tzaddik? Tzaddik ihi yesod. How is their holiness? How they behave morally and physically. How? Al shemira yesodeh hadat. When a person does not negotiate the fundamental aspects of Jewish life, Bekedushat haberit, and how the person behaves with his berit milah, the way the Gemara writes, Kol hamechubar latahor tahor. In English, there is a statement that says, "Tell me who you go with, I tell you who you are." Easy, right? Easy. In all languages means the same. This actually comes from the Gemara in Baba Kama. from the Talmud that says, if you attach yourself to goodness and holiness, you will get it. Is that the Chovat HaLevavot writes. And it says, imagine yourself. You walk now into a perfume store. You come out, how are you going to smell? Perfume. What happens if you go to a butcher shop? Or you go to a fish store? What's going to be? You smell like fish. And it says further, and it says, also guide your children to live a life of godliness from even young, tender age. Why? גם כי הזקין לא יסור ממנה. Shlomo HaMelech says, whatever you invest in the life of a child, as a child, this will never leave him. Why? Because you establish what? The foundation. Like Bar Mitzvah. A child learns the Berachot to the Torah for the Bar Mitzvah. A child prepares the Perashah for the Bar Mitzvah. Guaranteed that 10 years later, he will remember. And that's what Shlomo HaMelech says. It says, the more we invest in the children, the more happy returns we'll have later on in life. And all this, to summarize, is part of the topic of Shalom, Mehila, the topic of Yesod, foundation. But I'm not finished yet. I'm going to continue with your permission. All this, what I said, spoke in ways of how to sanctify my relationship with Hashem as a human being, as a man, and as a husband. For the ladies, it's the same. Let's transfer this message today in our interpersonal relationships. But for me to do that, I like to pause for a moment and to read a pasuk from this week's Perashah. And this way, we're covering part of the Perashah as well. We know that this Shabbat is Perashat Bechukotai, the final Perashah of Sefer Vayikra. Perashah Bechukotai has a lot of fascinating topics. Some of them unhappy, some of them unpleasant. But we're going to concentrate in the beginning of the Perashah that is very uplifting. The Perashah begins by telling us, basically, if we follow the commandments of Hashem and the decrees of Hashem, and we actually fulfill them, we're going to receive a lot of blessings. What blessings? Right away, I will provide rain on the proper time, and the land will provide and will yield the trees of the field and the vineyard, and a lot of berachot related to the concept of livelihood. And then the pasuk says, and you will eat with satisfaction, and you will dwell in the land of Israel with a feeling of security, peace of mind. So far, so good. One more. The pasuk writes, "Benatati shalom ba'aretz." I will give peace in the land. Comes Rashi, and it says, I will give peace in the land. Why do I need a blessing for that? I already have food. I already have drinks. I already have wealth. So it says, Rashi teaches us, Im en shalom en kelum, because if a person does not have peace, you have nothing. ונתתי שלום, שהשלום שקול כנגד הכל. If you put in one side of the scale all the blessings, wealth, financial success, agricultural wealth, family, children, and everything else you want, but peace is lacking, all of these blessings take a step back. Now, so far, Rashi delivered us a very powerful message. Let's see how it connects to the Sefirah of today. So it says, Ben Adam lehavero. In our interpersonal relationships, Ishtadel leharbot shalom. Make the effort to increase peace. Sheshorasho beyesod. Because one of the fundamental aspects of life is peace. Ubifrat ben ish leishto. Especially in the relationship between husband and wife. And then when it comes to your children, lihyod beshalom, to live peacefully. Ulharbot shalom. Train your children to live peacefully and to follow the peace. And when a person becomes, or it's honored to be the Chazan, להתפלל על הציבור. Besides the Chazan being the leader of the prayer, he should add a personal prayer. What is the personal prayer? May God, may the peace dwell among the members, and may he remove from them jealousy, hatred, and competition, which is, by the way, something that we do every Shabbat morning. מי שברך הוא יברך את כל הקהל הקדוש הזה, גדולים וקטנים. When we say the beracha of the kahal, it's based on today's class. ויסיר מתוככם קנאה ושנאה ותחרות. ויקיים בכם מקרא שכתוב. השם יברך, יוסף השם יברך, וכן ילסום ונאמר אמן. That prayer that we're going to say tomorrow morning, it sources in today's lesson. Because it says, if a congregation or a family doesn't have peace, you are at war. You cannot say, I don't have shalom bayit and not being at certain level of dispute or fighting. Correct? So now we understand why the Sefirah of the topic of Shalom, the Zohar Kadosh says, Shalom da Yesod. If you have peace, we have everything. How many families, God forbid, or institutions, or congregations pay a heavy price for the lack of shalom? Even life, health, also gets affected by shalom. The more we have it, the better it will become for all of us. Wow. One more. Since I'm already talking, nobody seems to be in a rush. I know, but I have 3 appointments lined up in the next 5 minutes, one after the other. But I'll tell you very quickly what it is. You want to bring peace. You want to bring happiness. And it's fascinating enough. It's reinforcing what we learned yesterday. The singing on the Shabbat table. Zemilot, in honor of Shabbat, in honor of the Berit Milah, in honor of the Yom Tov, because that brings Simcha Dikdusha. That brings happiness based on holiness. If I sit on the Shabbat, because of Shabbat. Why? כי השרוי בעצבות ובמראה שחורה. If, God forbid, a person is affected מאוד לבוא לידי חילול הטהרה. will be compromised. וכן השתדל לשיר שירים המעוררים הגאולה. Sing songs to נגילה הללויה נגילה בזמן 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 הגאולה. What that song says? Nagila, let us rejoice, let us praise the Almighty. You want to start dancing?
Come for the song.
Okay, beautiful. Stay tuned. The sequel. Okay? What does it mean, that song? Bazeman Geula, the time of the redemption had arrived. And like these, many songs that we are very familiar with, they carry powerful and meaningful and uplifting messages. He says one more thing. It says, why the reinforcement of singing? Why do I have to sing? It says very simple. Because singing is done with your mouth. And when the mouth brings forth songs, that means happiness. And if they are of Kedusha, obviously of holiness, that's even better. But it says, you know what else brings Kedusha to the life of the person? Sipure Sadikim. Stories of our Sadikim. That's why many people have a holy custom on Moshe Shabbat to tell stories of the Baal Shem Tov or any other Sadiq. But usually those are the most famous stories on a Moshe Shabbat table. The stories of the Baal Shem Tov. Why? The way we understand this is that the stories of the Sadiqim bring emunah to the heart of the person. Besides being a segula for Parnasah. If you want segula for Parnasah, tell stories of the Baal Shem Tov on Moshe Shabbat. That's what's written in the holy books. Emunah. There is more things to say, but I think that for today, we cover a gamma of a lot of topics, some of them heavy, and I apologize to the female audience and to the male audience, obviously, if maybe certain things felt a bit uncomfortable, but this is part of the menu of the day, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope that you utilize today's fascinating message of Yosef and Yosef. Today is Yosef to the square root. That's why the Sefirah of today is called Yesod Sheba Yesod. The foundation within the foundation of life. Iratzon, that these words of Torah and Berachot elevate the beautiful soul of Mrs. Pauline Rose Batsarina, Aliyah Shalom, beloved mother of Mr. Ivor Braca Shelita, and wife of our founder, Mr. David Braca, Aliyah Shalom. I knew her in the last years of her life, and a very wonderful and caring lady that together with her husband, all the benefits that we're getting from the Safra Synagogue going back reconstruction is thanks to them. Of course, there were others that helped, but they were on the driver's seat to make sure that everything is done. And Baruch Hashem, even though her and her husband are gone from the world for a couple of years, but nevertheless, they're getting the dividends, directly in Shamayim, in Gan Eden. So, Yehi Zichrona Livracha, may her memory be a source of blessing for the family and for the Kahal Kadosh. Amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia Omer,